Oh no! My greatest fear! Manual labor! No! Grounded is a survival sandbox game that's pretty much one-for-one inspired by Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. If you don't know what that movie is, that's okay. I wasn't even born around that time and I'm 25, so if you're younger than that, you were definitely not around. Basically, you are a group of teens that got shrunk down to the size of an ant, and you must now find a way to return to your normal size, all the while every insect and its broodmother wants you gone. So in order to survive, you must build shelter and craft items to take on the harsh grass-blade wilderness. This game is easily one of the most highly requested games for me to review, and I figured I'd give you all something cool to enjoy while I'm moving. So, is it good? Is it bad? Was the arachnophobia filter enough? Well, stay tuned and find out. Not that my playtime already implies something. Also, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Or don't, I mean, you do you. I'm not your mom. Let's get down to earth with the good stuff. Kicking this off, the game looks gorgeous. Its art style choice is perfect for the tone it's trying to set, and there are genuine moments of beauty that the game gives you enough time to take in. I'm personally always a bigger fan of something stylized than something trying to be realistic, because if you choose the latter, the game tends to age like a cow's lifeless body in desert heat. Meanwhile, games like this that released in 2020 still look exactly as well as they did back then. On an unrelated note, this game also has an arachnophobia filter, so you can actually play the game if you have that phobia. I used it for most of the playthrough because I actually do have pretty severe arachnophobia, but then I discovered that there was third person and then I turned it off. So just a warning for anyone with arachnophobia. This game's gonna have some spiders in it. For those of you wondering why third person was enough to get me to turn off the arachnophobia filter, it depersonalizes me from the entire experience, so I don't end up having like a first person view of getting jumped by a wolf spider, so third person helps a ton. The point is, this game's accessibility option is actually really cool and allows players like me to actually get to enjoy the game. So, you know what? Nice on you, Obsidian. Really good job. Moving on, I love how this game handles armor and weapons. No gear is really inherently better than the other. Every piece of armor and weapon serves a purpose or has a unique effect that might make it worth running through the game with. For example, even at this point in the game where I'm at tier 3 stuff, I was still rocking the mosquito blade because having the ability to just heal from attacking things was super useful when I ran out of health items. Even though typically higher tier gear ends up being stronger, that doesn't mean that you can't make previous tiers up to the same strength. You can even attach new effects to them with special bars down the line as you upgrade them, allowing them to do special damage types to be better equipped for certain foes. So not only can you truly rock whatever you want, but you can even customize it for the purpose it's needed for, which is just it's so cool. Then we have the mutations mechanic, which is really kick-ass. Being able to swap between passive effects at will and unlocking them through experiencing parts of the game is such a neat concept. For example, once you kill your first wolf spider, you get a mutation for poison resistance. The more you kill, the more you leveled up until level 3. Or the perk for being able to just cut down grass faster, unlocked by cutting down grass. It gives a genuine feeling of your character becoming more experienced with the small world, and it's really satisfying. Adventuring in this map is actually a lot of fun in this game, because instead of a randomly generated map, it's a preset one, which sounds like it would be bad, but honestly, after playing Abiotic Factor, I think I have a newfound respect for non-random maps. It means that every part of the game was an intentional decision, and it also means that it's easier to locate stuff because there's a clearly designated spot for that resource. Terraria also has a sort of system due to its world gen rules, but I've already talked about the game, so we're not doing that conversation again. The point is, a preset world allows for the game to feel more polished than it could have with random map generation. On an entirely unrelated note, combat is deceptively simple yet fun. Almost every single bug has a weakness, resistance, and weak spots, as well as clearly defined attack patterns with both a sound cue and animation to signal what attack that bug is about to do. Bugs also tend to have hidden stats or features like venom or slowdown mechanics to really make every fight feel like a fight for your life, not to mention there are boss fights with their own gimmicks and tricks to really throw you off guard, yet all of combat is done with a simple attack, block, and arrow shot. Most of your fights is almost entirely reliant on what gear you're bringing and what ammo you're using, which makes it feel a lot more like you're a hunter trying to plan out tackling each foe. I'm a huge fan of what they did here. Base building in this game does that same wall snapping system a lot of games use, but the difference being one major thing: your character has a comfort level. Depending on how cozy your environment is, you receive a few buffs of increasing strength based on your coziness level. It makes decorating your base not just something you do for the fun of it, but an actual important aspect of your gameplay. I don't know if I've ever seen this sort of mechanic ever added, but honestly, it's super cool and makes the sandboxing experience feel more tied in with the overall game loop. Plus, the healing boost you get is going to be useful when bugs decide to rush your base. If you murk enough bugs, you will actually get a little prompt saying that the species wants you gone. Once you get this notification, it means it's likely the bugs will start storming your base soon, although I've had times where they just don't, so I don't know what exactly starts the event, but it does happen. There's also a zipline system, basically functioning as a pseudo fast travel between points. At first you can only go down a zipline, but later you get an upgrade that actually allows you to go both ways, making it an incredibly efficient time saver. Also, building is not only used to access some places, but it can be used to get to other places super early. You can crank the slowest 90s devised by man to get just about anywhere, so the sandboxing element actually plays a part in almost every spec of the game, which just shows how well thought out its design is. is. Speaking of getting into places, the way navigating this map feels is great. There's tons of these little landmarks that can help you sort of know your position on the map without having to constantly check your map all the time. It's not the most obvious of things, but it makes the blinding amount of tall grass in your way feel a lot less blinding. Especially when Burgle, the robot you're supposed to revisit throughout the game, is under the literal largest landmark on the map that you can see from all surface areas of the game. Then we have upgrades to your character through Milk Molars, a collectible you acquire at the tier 2 part of the game. Milk Molars give you points to put into passive boosts like Hunger and Thirst, Strain, Health, and extra mutation slots, that last one being pretty damn important. It adds an extra layer of progression on top of the already existing gear system, and it's fun. Another aspect of this game is researching the ingredients you pick up. You have to research the materials you get at field science domes in order to learn new recipes and gain raw science. Raw science being a currency used for item duplication and getting even more recipes to further improve your survival chances and unlock new stations. The whole game just feels like everything was thought about and implemented with the express purpose of expanding upon the base game idea of survival and crafting, which makes every aspect feel like a genuine blast to go through. I did not expect the game about spiders larger than me ending up this good. But hey, I'm glad to be proven wrong. That being said, no game is perfect. There are a good handful of cons ranging from major to minor, so let's talk. Let's talk about the current version of the arachnophobia filter. I'm going to freeze this exact moment, and I'm going to ask if you see the problem. Do you see it? I'll give you a hint. It's attacking right now. The arachnophobia filter, while being definitely a good addition, has a major issue of being unable to convey enough information. I mean, at max value, it removes the legs, fangs, and turns it into a smooth orb. The color coding fortunately still exists so you know what is trying to kill you, but how is entirely obscured. I mean, you have no legs to go off of, so the tells really is just down to how the orb gyrates, which makes your only viable tell an audio cue. I'd actually suggest for the next game to consider making the legs not necessarily disappear, but be reduced to tiny orbs that only indicate the bend points in the tip of the feet. I think that change alone would make attack signaling feel a lot clearer for players using this filter. Also, speaking of this filter, it definitely does not change the models in the build menu, so even though the in-person orb weaver is actually the filter, in the menu, it's full spidery glory. I got jump scared by that shit, not cool. On to the core game design details, let's discuss set bonuses. And by discuss set bonuses, I mean how the game doesn't tell you that they exist until you wear a full set. Which may not sound like a big deal, and I'm sure the intention was for players to wear an entire kit and find out by playing. The problem is that when I see effects on armor, my instinct is to mix and match at that point, not to make an entire matching set. Which does mean I spent an alarming amount of time trying to fight off the red ants when the game actually wants you to wear red ant armor because the full set makes them passive to you. Which, fucking fine. Wish I knew that before going on a one-man war with them. Also, you'd think the black ant armor would do the same. No, it does not. Which I did not know until I made the whole set because the game legit just doesn't tell you what the set of armor will do until you wear it, which if you ask me is pretty damn stupid. Why would you withhold the set bonus information like this if it costs time and resources? Ideally, in survival games, you actually want to convey enough information for the player to make an educated decision instead of making everything a fucking guessing game of like, what's behind door number 3? It's cholera. On another note, the map could definitely use some work. If you collect milk molars of any kind, the map will still display the molar like it's still there with no indication that you've grabbed it. So eventually there's just a point in the game where you're actually running to places you've already been to trying to collect the last molar for an upgrade because the game just decides you don't need to know what you've already collected. Basically, the game has a rather nasty issue of hiding information from a player that really shouldn't be hidden. Hopefully the sequel will solve that. Another thing is the legit requirement of a field science dome. Not that I expect a team to be able to do actual educated adult science, but I do find the idea that you have to visit a specific spot to get new recipes to be a little annoying, because now the optimal way to make a base is to plant yourself close to one so you don't have to travel very far to learn a new recipe. Thankfully, they're pretty common across the yard, but I think after your first super chip, you should be granted the ability to make your own research station. That way you don't have to visit the dome for anything except new recipes, milk molar buffs, and a third respawn point. And by new recipes, I mean from like that unlockable station. I do not mean the research thing I just talked about. Also, this next complaint is not really on script, but just more something that I thought about when I was thinking about the field research stations. But the issue that I came across is that if you die at any point and decide to choose that as your respawn point, it'll pick the closest one, which sounds like it's reasonable, but if you're underground anywhere, instead of picking the one that's near the entrance, it picks the one that's closest to you, so you'll just end up miles away from the entrance of that cave, so you can't really get your stuff back easily. It might be a minor thing, but it's pretty fucking annoying when it happens. The rest of my issues are admittedly pretty light ones, so I'm just gonna lightly cover them real quick. Some build pieces don't actually attach to the structure despite them clearly being meant for it. For example, the grass railing. If you have an unfinished wall and want to put a ladder schematic on the unfinished wall, it's entirely possible the game determines that you actually want to put it on the opposite side of the wall instead of the one that you're facing. Bugs have a pretty nasty habit of getting stuck on geometry or popping out of it for reasons that I don't know. The game can easily be cheesed with game repair, which you bet your sweet Bippy I use that a lot. Some resources are a little obnoxious to gather, like berry leather, grub leather, and bee fuzz. Berries require you to either climb the hedge or shoot the berries down with arrows, and berries are only available at the hedge. Bee fuzz requiring you to slay a bee, but the bees always fly and never land unless they're at the picnic table, which by that point you likely already have enough bee fuzz. And grubs require you to use a shovel on these little digging trails, but the unfortunate part is that it's based on bug spawn, so there's no guarantee of them being there in the first place. And I don't mind that part necessarily, but I more mind the fact that the digging trail is this tiny little dirt path instead of like something a little more obvious and easy to see. Smoothies don't replenish thirst. That's really it. It's just kind of whack that doesn't replenish thirst despite being a drink. I think the game could actually benefit from one more trinket slot and maybe some extra gear slots for tertiary abilities like a headlamp. Forcing me to wear a non-set helmet for a headlamp actively puts me at a huge disadvantage for even using it. Same goes for the diving helmet. Regarding the insects in the game, a lot of them don't really do what you expect bugs to do. For example, ladybugs don't fly, spiders don't climb, ants only carry little bits of food at a time instead of all carrying one item as a group. And from what I've seen, bees don't land on flowers. Am I expecting realism? No, not at all. I can suspend my belief for a sci-fi tiny world experience, but it made some of my encounters feel very questionable and made me wonder how I'm even safe at certain points. Probably nitpicky, and I'm sure giving every insect the ability to climb would be annoying and problematic balance-wise, but maybe give some of them that? Just some small behavior changes to better reflect the species in question so the bugs feel more bug-like. To be fair, I don't know if any of this changes in New Game Plus, as I've not gotten to that point yet, but since this is the first playthrough, I'd still consider these to be valid statements. And now we have my final complaint. The voice acting. Not that it's bad voice acting, but that the fact the characters don't shut the fuck up. I shut off dialogue volume in my first hour because I kept hearing shit about aphids having things to do and people to see, or about how the food wasn't terrible, or about how the character has limits every fucking time she ate anything. I don't have an issue with my character having a voice, but I have an issue with its frequency. I do not need a constant voice line for every breathing thing. Abiotic Factor got this right by simply making your character only state things that are immediately necessary. Things like hunger, water, not shitting yourself, radiation poisoning. Those make sense because you actively need that information. I do not need to know about the fact that the thing I'm looking at is indeed a bee. And I get that maybe this is because it's a game that is meant for a younger audience, but even my kid self would have likely shut their asses up. Dial it back on the line frequency, or allow me to at least decrease the frequency manually. Whew. Well, anyways, other than these issues, I'm drawing a blank on any more cons, so I guess it's time to wrap this show up. Despite what I've said, Grounded actually might just be one of my favorite sandbox games of all time. It's such a charming twist on an old concept setting-wise, and every inch of this game feels like it was carefully considered and given as much love as possible. I honestly wish I had more time to enjoy it, but seeing as I'm moving, and with Grounded 2 literally coming out just as my move finishes, it's likely I won't be able to for a bit. And if you've pushed off this game for any reason, I'd say now is no better time to pick it up, actually. Not only is the game just a good romp, which I'm pretty sure gets even better with your friends, but I genuinely think it might just give you an unforgettable experience, which I shouldn't be surprised considering it's published by Obsidian. You know, the people behind Outer Worlds and Fallout New Vegas. So hopefully Grounded 2 lives up to the legacy of this company and keeps up the track record of making games ranging from legendary to decent. But, you know, I've been on this wild ride before, so fingers crossed. This has been the Bomb Dweller. Oh yeah, Queen Ant, throw that thorax back!